I'm going to share my screen and we are going to talk about travel hacking, which basically means you have figured out how to beat the credit card companies at their own game. That's really what we're here to talk about, because we are in an era where the best way for a credit card company to get a new customer is to promise them fabulous rewards. So that's really what we're talking about here today. If you have any questions at all, please drop them in the chat. Usually we have folks that are a little on the shy side, which is fine. You don't have to make yourself known. If you don't want to chat generally, you can just chat to me, the panelists, directly, and that way you will remain anonymous. But we've got a lot of great content to talk about today. So let's dive right into it. I'm your presenter. I'm AJ. I am one of the co-founders here at Brooklyn FI. I travel a lot. That's basically my claim to fame here. And I know a lot about this stuff. I spend a lot of time booking travel for myself and my husband for both business and pleasure. I love to travel. I love to fly. I love hotels, all the above. So credit card hacking has been a big part of how I've been able to do that. For more than for a lot of that for free, a lot of that through spending over here to get a reward over there. So that's why we're here. Like I said, please drop your questions in the chat. I will be monitoring it. So if I say something that doesn't make sense or you have a follow-up question, please submit it there. For everyone that submitted questions ahead of time, I've peppered those throughout. So if you don't get to your question, please remind me. And we will record this. So if you miss something, also feel free to take screenshots of things so you can come back to them later. But my first question, which is more of a rhetorical question, is do you ever carry a credit card balance or miss a credit card payment once in a while? Virtual show of hands. Because if the answer is no, if you ever carry a balance, this webinar is not for you. If you are going to be carrying credit card balances for whatever reason, medical emergencies happen, we had a spendy month, something unexpected happened. These credit cards that we're talking about have high fees and high interest rates. So if you are ever going to carry any kind of balance, you want to look for a credit card with a low interest rate. So not for you for carrying a balance. If you've ever missed a payment on a credit card, we're talking about opening more than one credit card here. So we want to make sure that we have auto pay set up. If you don't have that for at least the minimum payment, you're going to get dinged on your credit. So we don't want a free $200 night in a hotel room to ding our credit so much that we try to get a mortgage and we have to pay more interest. So this is a fun game, but it can quickly become a dangerous game if we don't play it right. So don't even try if we're carrying a balance. That's super important. All right. And remember, we are fighting against the credit card companies. We want to win the game. So consumers have been winning. These companies like Chase and American Express are kind of the big players in this space. We've also got Citibank. They are basically offering these travel rewards as a marketing tactic to get you to run up credit card debt. So if you aren't running up credit card debt, you can win. So us consumers, go us, we've traveled, I think this is in 2018, we've traveled $330 million on JP Morgan's dime. So that's nice. All right, today we'll talk travel tips. Are airline credit cards worth it? How does travel hacking impact my credit? How do I spend my points and miles? And how to choose the loyalty program that's right for you based on your annual spend? That's a big question that I bet a lot of you have. I'm ready to travel hack, but I don't want to spend a lot of money to get, a little piddly free night in a hotel here and there. So we'll talk about that. Let's start with an audience question. So one of you asked, is it a bad idea to occasionally open a new credit card for the sign-up bonus, then close the account once the awards have arrived? Is it a bad idea? I'm guessing you're asking about your credit score. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. It is totally okay to open a credit card, grab the sign-on bonus of, 70,000 miles or whatever. You do the minimum spend. Usually the minimum spend can be anywhere from $2,000 on, I've seen some as high as 10,000. Usually it's in the first 3 months of opening that credit card. Now, this is fine as long as you're going to do it the right way. And the right way is hit the minimum spend if you were going to spend that money anyway. If you don't usually spend $3,000 a month on your credit card, don't go out there and try to spend more money just to get this bonus. It's not worth it. 70,000 miles is not worth buying something that you didn't need in the first place. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, your credit score is kind of this black box. It's a complex calculation of a few different things that make up your credit score. Again, our credit score is important when we are trying to borrow money. We want to show the bank or the credit card bureaus that we are a good borrower. So if you do things like miss a credit card payment or open a credit card and then close it 10 years later, that's going to negatively impact your credit score. So opening and closing cards, I haven't seen it dramatically lower someone's credit score. However, if you do open a bunch of these travel rewards credit cards, at some point you're going to be stuck with a lot of fees. So you want to close them fairly quickly. So that's kind of the credit card like cycling through game. So you open one, get the bonus, do what you got to do, close it, move on with your life. A lot of these companies have caught on to us travel hackers. So a lot of like nice loopholes that existed 2 or 3 years ago have been closed. So just watch out for that one. All right, my general travel tips. I threw this in here because we're talking about travel, right? We're talking about how to travel smarter than the average person. If you're on this webinar, you probably travel more than once or twice a year. So I love Google Flights. Start there. Kayak, Skyscanner are also good options. Just start there to get an understanding of, let's say you have to travel to a friend's wedding or you're going home for Thanksgiving or what have you. Just get a sense of the price that we're talking about. I always like to start there because it tells me like, oh, prices are pretty good. Maybe I'll use some maybe I'll just pay cash or whatever, or, oh crap, prices are really expensive. I'm trying to go from New York to Los Angeles, on the Wednesday of Thanksgiving. That's going to be an expensive flight. I don't really want to shell out cash for that. Maybe I'll use some miles. So that's my first kind of entry point. I'm a big fan of global entry. I have been caught at JFK in security lines 4 hours plus back in the day before I had global entry. Some people say you got to fly a few times a year. I think if you ever plan on going abroad, getting back into an airport, especially if you're in New York or like a big city, it can be a pain in the ass. So I love global entry. Same thing, TSA PreCheck and Clear. If you're traveling more than 4 times a year, why are you making it terrible for yourself? I think PreCheck costs $100. I don't remember. You get it often reimbursed and free with some of these rewards credit cards that we're going to talk about. Clear is awesome. Some people say that too many people are using it now, so the lines are getting longer. But when you're in a pinch, these things are very valuable. So if it's not a lot of money, let's say it's under $100, and you're going to use it more than once a year, these things are kind of no-brainers. Like, airlines, being in an airport is not great. Let's improve our airport experience. That's also kind of what we're talking about today. A lot of you had questions about lounges, and we'll talk about lounge access and what I think the best lounges are. Delta Digital ID. I don't know if other airlines do this. I'm a Delta girl. We'll talk about that. That line is even faster these days. So make sure you, get your metric scanned so you can just literally walk right through security. I love using Amex points and Chase points for like normal business hotels in the US, Europe, and Asia. So you can find these like great hotel chains like Radisson and Marriott for very cheap, of just about 15,000 points a night. That's a kind of nice hack if you're going to a wedding or you have to be somewhere. And you're not staying in like a fancy boutique hotel, which I love. Hotels.com. I love using hotels.com, especially if you work for a big company, it doesn't have to be a big company. It's just you work for a company that requires you to travel for work. If you're booking your own travel, maybe you're using a company credit card, but you could put it on your hotels.com account and get some of those rewards. I've been using hotels.com for many years now, and back in the napkin, I've probably stayed at least 10 to 12 free nights, just by racking up rewards through them. If you're planning a complicated itinerary, let's say you're backpacking through Europe or going somewhere super fun like Japan, I like this tool called Wanderlog. It's great to kind of organize your flights, your trains, your hotels, your restaurants you want to go to. I think it's like $50 a year. That's a great tool. And also download all the stupid apps and sign up for every rewards program, even if you're only flying that airline once. You never know when it's going to save you with a lounge password or something like that. So those are my general tips. Pro travel tips now. Use the Google Flight Tracker to track prices well in advance of your travel. So I am going to Seattle this summer to visit my sister and celebrate my birthday. So I've been tracking this flight. I think when I first started tracking, it was $450. I should have probably bought it then. But Google generally has pretty good advice about whether you should buy it now or wait. So you basically get these emails when there's a major price change. I'm waiting to get the email that says your flight has dropped dramatically, and then I'll log in and book it and grab that savings. Number two, book your companion fares early. So this idea of this companion fare, it's been around for a while. Southwest Airlines has done it forever. Alaska does it, and Delta recently added it. It's a great perk, right? You're going somewhere, you're bringing your companion, that person gets to travel for free. So there's restrictions, right? You get two flights for the price of one, but you have to be traveling. I have seen that these credits are transferable. I was combing through Reddit to see if someone had actually successfully done it. I have not tried that myself, but in theory, you should be able to give your companion pass to somebody else. You don't necessarily have to travel. It is a little annoying to actually try to use these companion passes, but I successfully did recently in the Delta Sky Miles environment. I was able to find it by going to my profile, certificates, and e-credits, and then selecting the companion pass I wanted to use. And finally, we got a search engine within Delta where we can actually search which flights you're allowed to use your companion pass with. So before, you had to call, be on hold forever, and the agent would just tell you, oh, you can't even use this. So Delta now has a search engine. I believe Alaska does as well. Not sure about Southwest. So you can just see like which dates am I allowed to use this companion pass so my friend, significant other, whatever, can fly for free. So that's fun. Number three, if you are going to dedicate your life to travel hacking, you will quickly find that the best way to maximize your points that you've accumulated on your credit cards through spend is typically to transfer those points from either Chase or Citibank or Amex or wherever you're spending on that credit card to the actual airline, because airlines often have sales. So, China Airlines will do a flash sale and all flights from New York to China will be, 50% off miles. That's a great opportunity for you to be able to fly on a, let's say, I don't know, $6,000, awesome first class flight for half price and probably just a few hundred miles. So if you're going to get into this, really start paying attention to these miles transfer programs. If you had bought that same flight directly through Chase, you probably would have spent more miles. Often these transfers are not always instant, so you might want to do that a few days before you're actually going to make the purchase. Pro travel tip number 4, there are some new cool tools to be able to find once you know your destination and your dates, like which airline should I use, which airline is offering, how many points is it going to cost me to fly this flight. There's one called seats.aero. It's free. I think if you're just looking in like the near future, I think it's like the next month. So you can put in your origin destination and it'll actually tell you each airline how many points it's going to cost you if you have that airline rewards program. So I like this tool. I just learned about it earlier this year. So I've been using this to kind of just get a sense of like what I should do. We're going to talk about airline allegiance. I have allegiance to Delta because that is where I'm going. I've got status there. So I'm always looking for a Delta flight. However, as we all know, not everyone flies everywhere. Sometimes you got to go places where your preferred airline doesn't fly. This would be a great opportunity to do something like that. There's another tool called point.me. I was playing around with it. It does cost, I think it's like $150 a year. Wasn't a hell yes purchase for me, but if you're going to be doing travel hacking, you have a bunch of credit cards and are trying to kind of travel all over, it does look like a very cool tool. And shout out to this TikToker, Max Miles Points, for that tip. So someone had asked like, what TikTokers do you follow? I'm not on TikTok, but I did see a boomer. I have boomer TikTok, which is basically Instagram, where you see the TikTok stories a couple days or weeks later. So what type of travel hacker are you? I think this is important to know. How much are you going to be traveling? How much are you going to be spending? That's how much time do you want to dedicate to planning your trip? That's really going to determine which path you take. So I say, let's start at the bottom. You're prioritizing convenience and comfort. Status is meaningful. Your goal is to travel exactly when I need to in style. So if you're this kind of traveler, you need to pick an airline and stick with it, right? You need status. You need to be able to have access to the most upgrades. You get rewarded for your allegiance to that airline. I would sort of describe myself between this one and the next one. You could be an optimizer with medium travel flexibility. Your goal is to travel when you can to predetermined destinations. So you know that you want to go to Peru to climb Machu Picchu. You want to go sometime in November and December. You're going to spend some time tracking that because it's a big purchase. You probably have some airline allegiance, but it's probably between 2 and 4 credit cards. So I guess this is kind of where I am, even though I have a very strong preference for one airline. And then we have this at the top. We have this very specific kind of expert level travel hacker. You have no airline allegiance. You're spending lots of hours a month tracking things. You're a TPG is the points guy. That's one of the more established, very, very useful travel hacking blogs out there. You're following Max Rewards to track everything. That's a great app if you're very serious about this stuff. You're rotating through those sign-up bonuses. Basically, you don't want to spend a lot of money. You want to travel as much as possible. You kind of will go anywhere. I've seen a lot of travel hackers will say like, there's a sale and we're going to Miami this weekend. Like that's where my points determined I should go. So if you're that kind of person, you're probably going to have more credit cards in your wallet. Okay, so a question that someone had was, I have too many Amex points. Help me spend them on travel. First of all, you can usually transfer your points. So if your points are expiring or you just know you're not going to use them or you have millions of points, actually shout out to a Brooklyn FI client who used their Chase points to pay off part of their mortgage. That was one of the best uses of points I had ever seen. So if you have too many points, you can send them to a friend. Feel free to send them to me. Actually, don't do that. It's against compliance. If John's listening, there's a bunch of fun websites out there that it's like spin a roulette wheel and you're going to Sri Lanka or whatever. There's one called TripZard and you can kind of put in what you want. Like I'm looking for a walkable city that's got great food that's within a 4-hour flight of New York. So it can kind of, if you're really desperate, you have no idea where you want to go, you can kind of like roll the dice and it'll come up with something. I find that if you're not a frequent traveler or you have a stressful job or you just started a new job, there is this kind of like, I know I want to travel, but I can't actually like make the move. So just book it, put it on your calendar, clear it with work. That's step one, right? You're blocked off, you're going, then you got to plan it. A lot of people I find are always looking for travel companions. I love to travel by myself, love to travel with my husband and friends, but there is just something about being in a foreign city, doesn't have to be a foreign country, just a city that's not known to you, sitting in a bar, talking to people. Actually, I love solo travel. So just book it. Don't wait for someone else to come with you. Book your flight first, then the hotel, then the other stuff. Flight's probably going to be the biggest factor. So get that done. If you're really stuck, hire a travel agent. We have put so much of this burden on ourselves because it's fun for a lot of people to kind of research the best restaurants, research the best hotel, read all the blogs, but travel agents are often very good at their job. So if you're going somewhere that's far and expensive and you had to take time off work, why not make your trip kind of awesome for a small fee? So I'm pro travel agent, even though I do a lot of my own travel booking. Sometimes I'm just like, please handle this for me. I don't know anything about this area. I want to be somewhere comfortable. Just make it happen. Okay, so let's talk about what is best for you based on your lifestyle and your travel preferences. So these are the players we're talking about today. There are a million travel cards out there. To me, these are the ones that I think are worth talking about. This is my personal opinion. Again, the points guy is really your best bet for like which card is giving the best bonus right now at this moment. So we've got our Chase Sapphire Preferred card. This is within the Chase Ultimate Rewards family. The annual fee is $95. You get a bunch of points for things you book through the Chase travel portal. You get a $50 hotel credit. You get a nice DoorDash pass if you're ordering food. You get some of that back credited to your credit card statement. These sign-up bonuses, I think, are up to date. But yeah, all these have nice sign-up bonuses. That goes without saying at this point. No lounge access with the Sapphire Preferred card. Now, I assume if there are some expert travel hackers, they're probably going, what about the Sapphire Reserve card? So in the world of credit cards, Reserve usually means like the best. Platinum is slightly below Reserve, and then we have, preferred, gold, whatever. There's a million different names for like mid-tier, but usually Reserve is kind of the top. I like the Sapphire Reserve. I think it's a good card. I think it's a $450, $550 fee. For me, I'm going Amex Platinum or Delta Reserve Platinum for my expensive credit card. I'm expensive meaning my annual fee is more than $500 a year. Capital One Venture Rewards credit card. This is a great card if you're not traveling a ton. The rewards points redemption is great. It's not as like fancy or snazzy as your solid metal American Express card. But this is a great card. I also like that you can get statement credit. So it's kind of a mixture of travel rewards and cash back at the same time. So you get that flexibility. Then we have the Platinum card from American Express, Classic Amex Platinum. That's a hefty fee, right? But if you take Ubers, you automatically get $200 back in monthly credits. I use that all the time. You get global entry. So if you're paying for that, that's another couple $100. You get lounge access to not only Priority Pass, but you also get, which we'll talk about later, you also get Centurion Lounge access. Those are very nice. So if you're stuck in an airport, you can head to the lounge. It makes your kind of shitty travel day a little less shitty. The problem with Amex is that not everyone takes Amex. If you ever go to France, most of France does not take American Express. Similarly with Montreal, it's just a fact. So if you can't be an only American Express credit card holding household, you have to have a Visa, MasterCard. Does anyone have Discover anymore? I don't know anyone who has Discover. You'll have to have a second credit card because just not everyone takes Amex. And then we've got the Delta SkyMiles Reserve American Express card. This fee is $550. I think it might have gone up. I love this card. This is what I have. I have a personal one. I have a business one. I'm all Delta. I'm all in. And I get treated very well, right? That's important to me. I like to be upgraded. I like to go to the lounge. I like them to say, thank you so much, Miss Ayers, which is not how you say my last name. It's Ayers, for being a diamond medallion. I just like that feeling, and that's worth it to me. There's a new benefit that you get $240. I forgot a dollar sign there in Resi credit. So if you're booking restaurants, I believe, it's $20 a month. I've already seen that credit come back to me. It kind of happens magically just based on the credit card charges on your statement. Someone's got a question about New York specific benefits. I'm going to answer that in about 4 slides. I've got some very specific New York City recommendations. Is it worth paying for 2 travel cards, an Amex Delta, if I only travel Delta, and a Chase Reserve, hotels and other perks? That's a good question. I assume you're asked, so Amex, I assume you're talking about like a Platinum Amex and a Chase Reserve. I don't think it's worth it to have 2 expensive rewards cards, meaning I don't think you should be paying $1,000 in credit card fees. I think it's really hard to get that benefit in full unless you're traveling all the time. So I recommend one top tier credit card. So either an Amex Platinum or a Chase Reserve, and then a secondary tier card like that Citi Venture card we talked about. So you could do, what I have is which we'll talk about in a second. I have my Delta Reserve, my Delta Amex Reserve card, which is an expensive fee. And then I have like a JetBlue card, which is a $95 a year fee. So I think it's worth it, but just don't spend too much money. Don't spend $1,500. So how many credit cards should I have? At least 2. I think more than 4 is like a lot to manage in terms of payments and like juggling all of this stuff that we're talking about. So what's in my wallet specifically? So I have my Delta Rewards credit card. I have a Delta Reserve Amex. I put 90% of my, probably more like 95% of my purchases on here. I have a low fee rewards credit card, which is my Chase Sapphire Preferred when they don't take Amex. I recently added a JetBlue credit card because they fly to a destination I go to all the time. And I wanted my free check bag. So that's a $95 fee. I made that call. I might close that card because it's kind of a card I opened recently. And then I have my Travel Rewards business credit card, which is basically the same as my Delta Reserve, but it's for my business. And those 2 together with my business spend and my personal spend, I'm spending a lot of money on those Amex cards each year. I'm obviously paying off my balance each month, but that helps me get that higher level status at Delta. And then extra fluff in my wallet, I have 2 older Amex cards that I can't close. So I used to have an Amex Platinum before I switched to the Delta, which had a fee of $550. I didn't want to have 2 Delta Amex cards that with these high fees. So I called Delta and asked them to downgrade that Platinum Amex to, I think it's called their green card. So I have that card. I never use it, but I didn't want to close that credit card because I didn't want to lose that credit history as part of my credit score. I want to make sure that stays good. And then I'm sure we all have these, a starter bank credit card with a long credit history. So that first, not all of us, but for those of us that have been in this game trying to figure out this personal finance thing for a while, I have a bank credit card that I opened, I think when I was in college, not closing that card. It's got a long, nice payment history. Even though I don't use it, I actually don't even know where the card is. It's somewhere in a drawer. I don't carry it with me. So a lot of you asked ahead of time, are airline credit cards worth it? Yes, if, and this is my personal opinion, you fly at least 6 times a year. If you can pick an airline and stick with them, so bigger airlines, Delta, American, United, picking an airline like Southwest, and if you're living near a Southwest hub, awesome. Southwest Airlines would not make sense for someone living in New York City. There just are not enough flights, and there's too many connections if you're going more than 3 hours away by air. If you love and value your time in a lounge, I love a lounge. I'm a lounge lizard. Someone had asked specifically about New York. So this is the Delta Sky Club Lounge at Terminal 4 at JFK. It's got a beautiful rooftop. On Fridays, they have DJs, which I don't like that, but it's just it's a fun place. When you're going somewhere away for the weekend, it's just nice to show up to the airport and be greeted with, beets and tofu and turmeric pickled cauliflower, which is what you're seeing here on my plate at the lounge. If you value the upgrade, who doesn't like an upgrade? But I think for some people, for me personally, it makes me feel very good. It makes me feel very happy to get upgraded. Yes, if you have significant expenses, this is really, and we'll talk about specific numbers, but I think a lot of times people fall into the trap of, oh, I'm going to get a Delta credit card and I'm going to get diamond medallion status. You have to spend $250,000 a year. They actually just changed it, but it's around that in expenses. Now, if you're a household that does that, Delta Reserve could make a lot of sense for you. I am not a household that does that. However, my business, where I buy lots of software and plan retreats for my employees, my business does spend that much. So for me as a business owner, I get that Delta status through spending on my business credit card. But just keep that in mind that if you're not a big spender, I don't want you to become a big spender just to get a few free flights a year. I think that's a lot of people fall into that credit card reward trap. What is the best way to get started without blowing up your credit score or being overwhelmed with cards? Great question. If you just don't know what to do, just pick an airline, pick their bottom tier credit card and just start. If you're already feeling overwhelmed, this game is not for you. Like I said, it's a dangerous game. I know you're probably getting bombarded with like, oh, I'm tripping through Europe and it's all paid for by my credit card points. Like, good for you. That person's probably entire full-time job is this kind of travel hacking. So pick something simple. I really like that Citi Venture card we talked about. That's a great starter rewards card because it acts a little bit like a cash rewards card as well. This webinar is not sponsored by Delta. I just want everyone to know. Does anyone know about the secret Delta trading cards? So the pilots carry these like holographic cards that like give out occasionally when they're feeling like they want to, give excellent customer service. So we love that. Crazy story. So I was traveling, I forget where I was going, but I was in the Atlanta airport on Delta transferring to another flight. I had a super tight connection. I'm like sweating, messy, like grabbing my carry-on, like freaking out that I'm going to miss it. I'm like leaped up out of, first off the plane. And there's this woman there standing and she's like, "Are you Allie?" I was like, "Yeah." And Delta sometimes, when there are very tight connections, they will send a Porsche to you to pick you up at the jet bridge on your plane and drive you across the tarmac to your next flight. It was one of the coolest things to me. I felt very cool. And now I feel like a loser telling you the story, but it seemed like a good idea to talk about. Like the perks are great. if you can do the spend. If you can't do the spend, it's not worth it. Was probably a value of $200. Like, it just made me feel cool, but it wasn't actually like of good monetary value. All right. So are airline credit cards worth it to you? So here's me trying to like quantify your regular spend versus like, should you put it on a cashback credit card versus the perks you get from an airline credit card. And there's no perfect answer here, but basically what I've tried to do at the top here is how much does it cost you to do this thing when you travel? Eat breakfast at the airport, $15, get upgraded to first class, 500. Let's argue all day long about, well, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a lot more to get upgraded to first class. Drink a beer at the airport, you might do that. That'll probably cost you $15. If you check a bag, it's probably going to cost you $50. So if you're flying, once a year, that's 2 airline trips. So the annual value of your perks, I've tried to kind of quantify it there. So as you can see, as you fly more, if you fly once a month, you're taking 24 flights or more if there are connections. That's a pretty significant value of those perks if you're using them, right? It's really hard to quantify like lounge access. So I don't know if that's worth it, but basically I'm assuming if you're using the lounge, you're not drinking a beer and you're not eating breakfast at the airport. So if you're like me and you fly twice a month, the benefits can be extreme, right? Like I firmly believe that I am winning the credit card game against American Express, and I'm winning the rewards game against Delta. Because I'm talking to you about them now, first of all. I'm an evangelist, but I get a lot of stuff while I travel. Traveling is pleasant because of this reward system. Do not sleep on Priority Pass. Priority Pass is a lounge network. You pay an annual fee to have access to these lounges. Some of the credit cards have this as a free perk. You just have to enroll. You don't get enrolled automatically. It's affordable. Also, if you don't want to commit to an airline, you're not ready for an airline's credit card, I think it's like $100 per year for membership, and then you pay like $35 per lounge. You get access to the sexy new Chase Sapphire Lounge at JFK. So someone had asked about best lounges in New York City. JFK, huge airport, the Chase Sapphire Lounge, it is awesome. There are also a bunch of Delta lounges, which are great. But through Priority Pass, I think there are at least 3 lounges per terminal at JFK. So it's a no-brainer for me, for New Yorkers. It's also great when you're kind of in random cities. My business partner, Shane, and I were stuck coming back from a conference in St. Louis, and our flight kept getting moved and canceled. And there was no lounge, but through Priority Pass, we basically got, I think it was like a $30 beverage credit, like for every 2 hours we spent in the lounge, which was just like this little pizza restaurant in the airport. But without that, it would have been a much more miserable experience. So we had like this little like VIP table as part of the lounge at this like normal pizza restaurant in the airport. So again, if you're traveling, spending a little bit of time and a little bit of money to kind of remove like something bad happening, like you're stuck at an airport and there's no restaurants open or whatever, like having a lounge when you're stuck while traveling can change your whole day. Become a lounge lizard. I love a lounge. My favorite lounge is the PGA lounge in the Minneapolis airport, where you can hit golf balls. And through Priority Pass, you get $15 off your round. That is the best lounge. This is the Brooklyn FI team coming back from a conference in Vegas, in the Delta lounge. Points if you can name all 4 people in this photo in the chat. Anybody? Nah, I don't see any employees on here. Okay. But yeah, lounges are awesome if you have to spend a lot of time in airports, like they're great. Anyway. Is it okay to close old credit cards after I've done the spend? Oops, that was a repeat. Yes, it's totally fine. You can do that. So what are the best travel rewards programs out there? They're not just credit cards, right? Chase Ultimate Rewards Points, you get that through a credit card. Some people have said to me that Marriott Bonvoy is very good. I'm not sold on it. I just don't think it's as good as Chase or Amex and their travel portals. The Capital One points, I just don't have a ton of experience with that, but I have heard good things about it. Delta Sky Miles, obviously. Hotels.com. Do not sleep on hotels.com. That is a fantastic way to rack up hotel points. I'm sorry. As you spend, you basically accumulate dollars that you can spend to get a free night. So like I said, yeah, at least 10 to 15 hotels over the past couple of years that I've gotten for free through hotels.com. This is iced tea, by the way. It's not whiskey, even though it looks like it. Okay. So yeah, we talked about this, right? Like, should I open and close cards? The impact to your credit is very minimal if you're opening and closing them within 1 year. And I mentioned this earlier, but if you do have one of those expensive, high fee cards, you don't want to close it because it's an old card that you've had forever, you can actually try to get it downgraded to a lower tier. So if you've got the Delta Reserve, no longer useful to you, you can call them and try to get it downgraded to a gold card, which has a $95 fee, not a $695 fee or whatever it is. So let's look at how to use your points. So we're looking at a case study here. We're booking a round trip flight from JFK to LAX, August 1st to 5th, departing the morning, returning the evening. And basically what I've done here is I'm trying to show you how it's almost always best to book through the airline directly. So here with my Amex or my Delta Reserve, I've got a 15% discount on the miles already. This is the Delta portal down here. And it's only 30,000 miles. Now, if we go up here, this first box, this is the Amex portal. So the similar flight, right? This one is almost 60,000 points. Now, the airline points and the Chase points, they aren't exactly 1-to-1, but they're fairly close and they kind of give us a good comparison. So super expensive to book this Delta flight through Amex. Don't do that. Go to Delta directly, transfer your points if you don't have Delta points. And then same thing here. This is the Chase travel portal. And in this case, actually, this flight looks pretty. That's actually the exact same flight that I have. That's only 24,000 points. So in this particular case, might be a better idea to book it through the Chase platform specifically. So when I book travel, I do check all of these. It takes a bit of time. Those 2 websites we talked about earlier, which I linked in the first message I sent to the group chat, those can help you kind of sort through all this nonsense. So yep, transferring your points, just to hit home. Transferring your points is really great for those long flights like US to Southeast Asia, where you can fly in these insane first class cabins. The ticket price of these flights are like tens of thousands of dollars through some very careful travel hacking and points transfers. We have heard stories of people booking these insane cabins for 100,000 original Amex points, which is not a lot of. That's basically your sign-on bonus, right? Like does not take a lot of time to accumulate that many points. So if you're trying to go on a very long haul flight, best to plan far ahead. If your dates are flexible, you could probably fly. You could probably get one of these sweet suites if you play your cards right. That's also the problem with travel hacking is at the end of the day, if you're flying, during the holidays or if you're flying during the high season, points help you, right? They help you spend less cash, but there's not a lot of deals to be had when when there's high demand. So true travel hackers that like kind of like expert level, they're going like, oh, I want to fly to amazing places when no one else is going there. That's really when you're going to see those great deals. If you want to dedicate your life to this, these are some of the resources that I like. Scott's Cheap Flights is great. Max Rewards is an awesome app where you can kind of track all this stuff and they'll make all these recommendations for you and tell you which credit cards to get. So that can be helpful if you're all in. Not to be Debbie Downer, but if you want to support small businesses, unfortunately, using your Amex is not great because Amex has one of the highest merchant fees. So while all of us are out here getting our great, travel rewards, unfortunately, the merchants are actually bearing the cost of that. So that's how American Express makes money, that they charge the merchants 3%. I'm going, this is awesome. Do you take Amex? Great. I get my points. So just something to think about as you're being a conscious spender and consumer. Pro tip, always put your face on your credit cards. These are 2 credit cards that are long expired. My grandfather was a doctor and he asked me to model this medical device. And then he put me on his credit card, which was mortifying to me in high school. And then obviously I wanted a Hello Kitty credit card. So I stuck my face on there, which was fun. I said I would get to New York, but I didn't. So let me answer your question first. I'm going to get my face off of here. Okay, so question from the audience is, can you comment on any New York City specific benefits, nuances to keep in mind with these cards? Like which lounges and cards are best in New York City, or the Resi premium thing going on with Amex Gold and how it works? Okay, so yep, if you're in New York City, the Resi credit, so you book your restaurant reservations through Resi, just use your credit card to pay that bill. And as long as that restaurant is on Resi, it magically credits your card back $20. I've done it twice over the past 2 months, so it works. Restaurant recommendations, that's a whole other webinar. In terms of lounges, I mean, look, New York City, JFK, it's a Delta hub. JetBlue also flies out of JFK. So if you're traveling to a specific place that JetBlue goes to, JetBlue can also be that's actually a great rewards credit card, only if you're flying to JetBlue cities. And New York City is a JetBlue hub. Any other specific nuances? I mean, yeah, in terms of lounges, the new Sapphire Lounge is awesome. But I love outdoor lounges at airports. And Delta has designed a lot of their lounges to have a little bit of outdoor space. So you can kind of get some fresh air mixed with jet fuel as well. So before I get into, if that answered your question, I can also always happy to follow up with more specific New York City recommendations. These are some of the questions that you asked ahead of time, but I just wanted to open it up to our live audience folks and see if there's anything you want me to dive deeper on, really any questions at all. I am here for you. But while you think about those, please drop them right in the chat or in the Q&A. Let me just get to these questions to see if we have not answered any of them. We kind of answered this first one. Look, cashback credit cards are great. If you're spending $5,000 a month on credit cards, probably time to upgrade to a fancier rewards credit card. Are the higher cost annual fees better than their less expensive counterparts, i.e. Chase Sapphire Preferred versus Reserve? I think the higher value, the higher fee cards with the fancier benefits are worth it if you're spending a lot more. So that's kind of where you have to do the research. Like, my goal was to get to Delta Diamond Medallion status. There's a lot that unlocks with that. So I looked at the spend and I went, yep, I'm going to hit that. So I'm going to get that more expensive card. Honestly, the Sapphire Preferred is an excellent card. You miss things like the global entry credit. You might miss out on Uber credits and things like that. So it depends. If you're doing the big spend, the more expensive cards work. Is it worth it to have more than one? I think we kind of covered that. I think a $95 fee, you're pretty sure that you'll earn that back. Again, do not carry balances. The minute you carry a balance, the minute you miss a payment, all of these rewards, the value just gets wiped out because you're paying interest. Let's see. Should you close all credit cards? We already covered that. Overview of the airline lounges and NYC airports. I think I love a lounge. I'm a lounge lizard. When there's not a lounge, I don't have access, or I'm flying a different airline for whatever reason and I don't have a lounge, I'm not having a good time. So, I think travel also is like anxiety inducing, right? Or anxiety producing. I love to fly. I have no trouble flying. I have a lot of friends who struggle with flying. Like sitting in a relaxing Delta lounge, sipping a sparkling water or a wine before you fly is likely to decrease your anxiety instead of like waiting in line for Shake Shack for 45 minutes, in a very crowded, loud, probably if you're flying, like the old LaGuardia was really dirty. That was no good. Now LaGuardia is beautiful. And I love flying out of LaGuardia, especially if you live in Brooklyn. It's like a super quick, the train doesn't go there, but it's a quick car ride there. So that is the end of my webinar. Thank you all for sticking through. I think we only had one person drop out. So I guess you were waiting for me for the big reveal. I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope that this was helpful. I love to travel. So If you have if you're going somewhere, shoot me a note and I might have some suggestions for you. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording now. And I hope to see you all at a future Brooklyn FI webinar or IRL event. Thanks so much. Have a good one.